So sick. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So on today's video I am going to do the DIY install of the twin disc clutch from GotTuned out in Poland. If you saw my last video, I transitioned out to Tampa, Florida, where I'm working for Mini of Wesley Chapel, selling Mini Coopers, and it's a pretty awesome environment and get to see some pretty darn cool cars. So I'm glad I get to share that content with you guys. But we are still working on the coupe. We got to get that out to Tampa and running by itself. So first things first, I'm going to use the engine hoist and then lift it off of this engine stand so we can get access and get this twin disc clutch on. So here it is, sitting here waiting, and I'm pretty excited, guys. Alright, so the plan is to hook it up to the hoist and then lower it down onto this tire, basically. So we got a bolt through here, and it's tied up to this leveler. Which one? And we got the other side of it hooked up to the tow hook, which is in the block up top.
Once we get the weight off, we just take off and it'll automatic right now.
Alright, someone recording?
Install your clutch.
Alright, yep.
Go talk if you want to shut up.
Alright, so now we got the stand apart, got the engine off of the stand, and I'm going to clean out the inside of this hub here and then get to installing the clutch. Let me show you guys what we did here. So we lowered it onto this tire, and before anyone says that we're hurting the turbos, I just want you guys to see that there's clearance all the way. And there is, I checked. So there's no weight on anything except the block itself. So we're gonna open up this spline grease and see what this is looking like. There you go, Sachs Performance spline grease. Alright, so now I am just cleaning out the inside of the crank hub, making sure there's no rust in there. Then I'm going to put a layer of Loctite, just one line around the inside. Once I clean the crankshaft hub, then I am going to install the centering spigot, and that came included with the kit. So there it is. So basically, I don't want to touch it too much with my fingers because it'll get rusty, but that's going to slide right in there, as you can see. And that's after I put the Loctite and make sure that both this and the inside of this is nice and clean. There was some rust on the inside of the crank hub. The instructions said use a little bit of sandpaper here and just make sure I get all that rust out. So next I am going to have to take the clutch and the flywheel apart, so it did not come torqued down or anything. I want everyone to notice specifically how there's a green X here and here. So you make sure you put it together the same way you took it apart. So as you can see, watch the X's as I lift it. And you can see the X's both line up there, and on this. Okay, so once we've removed the pressure plate off of the 3 centering pins and have kept track of the 3 green X's, we're going to remove this with the friction pads on them. That's just going to come out. I'm going to keep it in the same orientation just so I don't get confused. And the spacer is about to come off. Remove it now, and again keeping track of where everything is, and it helps you with the X's. And there you have it. So now we have the flywheel, and we can get it on there. Now that the centering spigot is on, we're gonna line it up here with this. One of the holes on the flywheel is a little bit bigger to accommodate that. And as you can see, is this one here. So I'm gonna get this on now. So now you can see the flywheel has made it up perfect. And now it's time to insert the 8 bolts here. And there's a specific sequence of torque specs that you have to follow in order to get it on there properly. So I'm going to show you that now. So of course, first thing you want to do is put them in by hand, and then we'll start with the torque spec sequence. Alright, so now it's time to torque the bolts down, holding the flywheel on. And basically you're just going to skip around, go opposite corners through 5 steps till you reach 88.51 foot-pounds.
They did. Keep going. They did.
So we ran into this issue where as we're applying torque to these bolts, it's spinning the crank. And so and rotated it till it hit the ground. So now we can continue torquing these bolts holding the flywheel on. And this is the pin that you use with the stock flywheel in order to take the crank pulley bolt off.
When we went to take the front 700-foot bolt out, we were like, shit, I was gonna hold the crankshaft. It just bent.
Now I'm on the 3rd step of the torque spec, which is going to be 60 Newton meters. Then I'm going to jump up to 90 and then 120. It's also good to lubricate this with grease every now and then because it will get rusty. And I have 2 more steps left. Now I've jumped up to around 66 foot-pounds, and then the last step's going to be 88. I'm just going to push the throwout bearing into the pivot fork. You can see there's this little notch there. You got to get it over. Just like that. Alright, so now I am going to install the friction pad. And keep in mind it says gearbox side, so you know which side it goes. And I'm going to put some spline grease around this, around the inner part. So you got to make sure you have the green dot lined up here. Green, green, then the green on the spacer, and then the other friction pad. But now I'm going to put a little spline grease around the edges here where the spacer's going to line up. Well, the spline itself Next, I'm going to take the Sachs Performance pressure plate and put it onto the flywheel. Now that we got both friction pads and the spacer in between in properly. As you can see, there's no gaps in here. Everything's lining up. And when you put this pressure plate on, you're gonna again make sure that the green X lines up, and also make sure that the 3 centering pins line up as well. Alright, now I'm just putting in these 6 bolts loosely around the outside, and then I'll torque them down all evenly, opposite directions, just like the procedure when we were bolting the flywheel on, except now we are bolting the pressure plate on. And yeah, that just about concludes the clutch install for the N54. Again, this is the twin disc clutch from GotTuned out in Poland, and I'll include all the links for their websites and this product down in the description below. And guys, don't forget to subscribe and turn on that bell notification, because I'm going to be uploading more, and it really means a lot. So subscribe for me, like, and comment. Let me know what your thoughts are on this process, and if you would have done something different. But other than that, I'll catch you next time on Spoolzone. So it is towards the end of the night, and I wanted to show you that we repositioned the engine so it's much more stable. All we did was put the hot side motor mount on, and it's pretty much sitting flush on a board, and on this side it's just sitting on the oil pan right there. And if I go back, you can see pretty much how level it is, and it's real stable, so it's a good way to do it.